Dear witches, staying up to date with the moon? Seeking reminders to re enchant your daily life? Subscribe to the Modern Witches newsletter for lunar updates and inspiration for working with our personal and collective phases of transformation. Not only do we send out digital spells, astrological insights, and witchy love notes, our newsletter also showcases the incredible magical community that Modern Witches has fostered throughout the years. Have a course or offering you'd like to share with magical babes? Want to share your art with those who will be most touched by its magical themes? Learn more about promoting your work on our newsletter at modernwitches.org/community-marketing. Find the link in show notes. So, welcome, listeners, to the Modern Witches podcast. I am your host, Casey Zabala, excited to be here with Granddaughter Crow, an intuitive, a teacher, and the author of Ho Shone and Navajo medicine woman's exploration of the four bodies of existence for balance and self-reclamation. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Casey. I really appreciate coming on to the show and being here and spending time with you and your listeners.
We're delighted to have you. Thank you for being here. I'd love it. We're going to dive so much into kind of your life, your connection with spirit and your work. But if you could give our listeners an introduction to yourself,
Abs-
however you find yourself today. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Ya'at-A, they call me Granddaughter Crow. I am born to the Bilagana clan for the Ta'achini clan. So I'm a member of the Navajo Nation as well as Dutch heritage. And I am here to inspire, to encourage, and to empower people to be their authenticity. More detailed about me, I am hoping to, as I become elder, to turn into that wise little girl who is playful and curious and continues down that mission. My curiosity thus far has taken me through a lot of Western academics, so I have my doctorate in leadership. My curiosity has also found me on this show because I love modern witches.
Yay. I know, and I'm excited to kind of get into that space with you and maybe talk about the witch archetype through your lens a bit. But maybe we could begin just kind of understanding where you kind of first met spirit or started to kind of develop your own personal relationship with spirit or spirituality.
Oh, that's an excellent question, and I actually was born to a long line of spiritual leaders, and so my grandfather was a medicine person, and his son, my dad, was also a medicine person. However, he was taken from the Navajo Nation and put into boarding school. So he was born in 1932. And so with the US history, that's what happened, and he became Christianized and all of that, trying to erase the redness of his look, from within. There's a saying that I say in my newest book, and it is Navajo, and it's Bilagana, Bilasana, Betlakan. And that is Navajo, and what it means is white man likes apples. And what that means, and it's an old sarcastic joke, which isn't necessarily the same right now, but it means it's to say that colonization likes people who act like white men on the inside but have red skin. And so my dad, being a holy person as well from this bloodline, ended out in seminary school under the Christian faith, where he met my mother, who is the Dutch woman, and they ended out becoming missionaries. So my father is known as Reverend Jackson Yazzie, or he was, of the Navajo Nation under the Christian faith. And so when I was born, they had seen, "Oh, it's you." The elders came and said, "It's her that will carry this cloak." And it was
Mhm.
kinda confusing to the Christianized thinking because that was back in the '70s, and there weren't, women reverends, you know?
Mm.
And so basically, I have one of those very odd that you don't hear about a lot, but I literally was raised to be a spiritual leader, right? And yeah, that didn't work out very well when I started asking questions about the Bible as I was studying it when I was like 12, 13, 14. Like, if God loves everybody, how come we have to keep doing missions? And some people, this is prior internet, guys. How come we have to keep doing missions and not everybody knows? And so these people are just going to die and go to hell because we didn't get out there? Like, how is that love? I started asking these questions well, I started asking questions, which is the point, because in that theology, do not question the Lord thy God, do not question the church, and do not question the Bible or your parents. And so it was very, very quick. By the time that I was 17, I was kicked out of the
Mm.
family, of the church, all of
Wow.
it. So I went on my merry way and tried to figure out how to do, this mundane world, trying to figure out almost like now it's kinda like, "Huh, was this a little bit of a brainwashing cult stuff?" And I don't know, and I went away and I got a bunch of schooling, I fed my mind the Western civilization thought process, and then about 20 years ago, I found myself in a witchy shop getting my first tarot reading.
Amazing.
And they said, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, "Yes. What does my spiritual path look like?" Of course, this lady doesn't know anything about my background. I'm dressed like half business with my little latte, and I was living in that world, and she pulled the Wheel of Fortune, and she was just like, "Whoa," and then she was like, "Wait a second," and then she pulled, like, the sun, and she's like, "Real actually, you have a brilliant spiritual path that is pretty open to you to be able to shine the light in the way that you want to." And I took that to heart. I still remember it 20 years
Mm.
later. And now what I did was I jumped back over the Christianized thinking back to my traditional Navajo roots, a lot of which is embodied. And here I am. So that's my path.
Amazing. Yeah. That's so interesting because I as a tarot reader reading your book, I kind of felt all these parallels to that world, which we can get into, but I love that it was like a witchy shop that kind of reawakened you to your spirit path. That's very cool.
100.
They're very important places, aren't they? Yeah.
Sanctuary,
Mhm.
sanctuary. In fact, just call out to book people, metaphysical, spiritual shops. You guys, I know it's hard, but you guys are bringing a lot of empowerment, exploration to a curious mind. And yeah, hail the witches, hail the witch
Yeah.
shops. Mhm,
Absolutely. Totally
mhm,
echo that.
mhm.
Yeah, so how does the archetype of the witch fit into your practice now or in the past? And how do you hold sort of the role of medicine woman and witch together?
Absolutely. So, on one hand, being so strictly into the strict dogma, not just as a person who needs to obey, but as a person who is supposed to teach others how to obey. That's how I was raised. I was raised to be the next reverend. They were like, "Let's get her through school until she can drop off, then we're gonna send her to drop out, we'll send her to seminary school." So, 20 years ago, when I walked into the witch shop, it was almost like a rebel within me. Like, I'm like, "Screw that." And so it was kind of an empowered stance. And then I started picking, little curiosity witch books, and I started going, "Who's gonna tell me that I'm a witch? Oh, how do I do this?" I was looking for the same dogmatic structure of permission, and they were just like and so I decided one year, after a year and a day of reading all the books, because that was the whole thing, right? A year and a day, and so which you can still do, and I still do, it's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I went into the same shop and I'm like, "Could I buy this pinnacle and wear it? Or can you tell me I'm a witch?" And they're like, "Girl, you're supposed to tell us." And felt liberated once again.
Mhm.
And I felt liberated beyond this man-made structure of don't ask questions. I felt liberated in the curiosity. I felt liberated in the self-identification. I felt liberated in all of that. And what I really love, and I've done a lot of studying of different belief systems and different paths, and I love them all. It's like a buffet, right?
Mm.
But where I kept finding myself organically was back to my red body, my red understanding, which basically could be translated as earth-based religion, if you wanna put religion as a term on that at all, but it's earth-based, which then throughout the history of my life, that translated to pagan, and then pagan translated to witch, and I'm just like, "Yay," and I think it was such a liberation. So I've always like, I don't walk around going, "I'm a witch," but if you ask me, "Hey, are you a witch?" I'll be like, "Hell yeah, I am," I'm just like
Yeah, totally.
all the way, because I see it as liberation. And I think it's a very beautiful word because you can have now in this day and age, you can have kitchen witches, you can have green witches, you can have all of these different types, but in truth, we all stand together. And so then that as kind of my stance, I'm out, I'm not a Christian, I'm a witch, which there are Christian witches too. So this is just my
Mhm.
lived experience. And but my body and the way that I think and how I could understand spirituality always returned to the natural world. It always returned to the natural world, and I had some very powerful and continue to have some very powerful experiences as the natural world is my teacher and my connector. It is my sanctuary. And so, although I hold title of witch, it's more or less that. And then, it was probably a few years after I held the title witch, I went down to the Navajo reservation and visited a lady that my mom and dad, well, mostly my mother, would not let me visit when I was a little girl, and that was Aunt Alice. Aunt Alice is the high priestess of the Peyote Way, or at least she was that when she walked the earth. And my mother was so horrified or terrified that Aunt Alice would take a button or a lock of my hair and do something. And so, of course, at this point, I'm like, here's a button and here's a lock of my hair, do something. And she sat down with me and we looked at a stone and she said, "What do you see?" And I told her what I saw. And she goes, "It is you, isn't it?" She goes, "I knew my brother would give birth to a medicine person." She's saying all this in Navajo, "But I
Mhm.
know it's you. I thought it might be your sister, but it's you." And and now it's like, but it's not. Although I reflect on and try to figure out the traditions of the Navajo Nation, I also am very taboo because the Navajo nations don't necessarily traditionally wouldn't want witch, don't like that. And so I
Right.
found myself in that anomaly. But as far as being a medicine person, the medicine that I work with is, well, the 4 bodies of existence to be one. Being able to look around the world and see check in with myself physically, which is one body. Check in with myself emotionally, which is another body. Check in with myself mentally, which is another body. It is not all of me, and check in with myself spiritually. And so those 2 tie-ins are very, very interesting. So I guess one could actually say a modern medicine person, but I'm gonna just let Aunt Alice's voice carry through. I'm a
Mm.
medicine woman, so
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's interesting. I think, being where we are in this like modern timeline and holding lineage as you do, and also being kind of in the mix of modern spirituality, which is really syncretic and been informed by so many different religions and practice. It's it's a practice to just kind of be in your own integrity, be in your ancestral knowing, and be open to what's resonating, right?
Yes, 100%. I think that that's one of the keys of being healthy is the ability to be curious.
Mm,
Ability to so much so, I say that whatever the creator is and however it reveals itself to you, instilled within each of us creativity. And this creativity, what I have found is it is almost a compass to be able to lead you back to your own authenticity. So, with the curiosity, so be informed with all of it, but always listen to not what they're telling you what is next, always that is a part of our counsel, it's the external counsel, but what I say is also check with your internal counsel and say, "What am I curious about next?" Because then you have a fuller picture and it leads you to home, your authenticity.
mm. I love that. Yeah. It's such good advice. I think that the book is so grounding, or it was
Yeah.
very grounding for me to kind of come back into these 4 different bodies and sort of really and sort of develop the relationship with them.
Yes.
And you give great prompts and exercises to kind of explore these parts of ourselves. Yeah, and I'm curious about kind of how it was to develop this framework, to write this book, to put this all together. Did you sort of notice any shifts within you as you were moving through the process?
Oh, absolutely. Being an author, it really is synonymous with being pregnant and giving birth. It really is. It teaches you, it changes you, all of that. This book has been inside of me for a very long time in a very, very deeply profound way that writing it and then now having it out in the world is both absolutely amazing and absolutely horrifying all in one with a little bow at the top. It is the expansiveness of the whole thing, and thank you for saying it's grounded because I my father used to say, "We talk so intelligently about our confusion, but when you ask somebody what do they know what they know?" So
Mm,
it's inviting people to not have to worry about your confusion. Sit back and know what you know in your heart, in your physical body, and in your spiritual body. And so, yeah, I'm not
mm,
sure if
that's
I
good.
answered your question, but I that was a good tee off because I just
Yeah.
I just went
No, it's so beautiful. It's so true.
it is. It is true. Your body
Yeah.
intelligence with the gut checks
Mm,
will keep you out of danger, but if you are raised in any type of a system that tells you not to trust your emotions or your body and that it's sinful and that they need to direct your spirit, I find that so harmful. And so I think this is almost a response to that understand that theology, that dogma, to empower people to be able to go, wait a second, I was given these, this is a birthright. I get to know what I know, and I don't have to convince anybody else of this. I get to be authentic. So it goes back to that internal counsel, which I think is lacking. I don't think that there's lack in the external counsel. I think that, but if you can't balance out the external counsel with who you truly are, then are you going anywhere? And are you becoming that which you were created to be, which is actually really fun, which is authenticity. So I always, authenticity.
mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, oh my gosh, my mind is going in so many different directions. And I wanna ask about the balance piece, but before I do, I'm kind of interested in this idea of centering joy. centering your creativity and your curiosity. Because I do think, well, the world is in a very precarious place and there's lots of uncertainty. People can really it's very easy to focus on the suffering and kind of like solving the problems
Yeah.
of our world, which we need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this reorientation towards joy is so important now. And do you have advice for folks to kind of like shift gears, I guess, into more of that curiosity, creative space?
Yeah. One of the things is it comes from the basis of when you understand that the 4 bodies of existence are bodies, not just I have emotions, but I have an emotional body.
Mm,
Then you start kind of it frames it in another way that you're like, "Well, then I guess it needs food, rest, and exercise." And so when you look through that lens, there is an amount of I need to eat my vegetables and my fruit and not just all this garbage. I do need to be aware and I need to process all of this stuff that's going on in the world. I need to feel my feelings. I need to feel all of that and counterbalance it out so that your emotional body is healthy and not like emaciated because all it gets is one thing. So, for example, I like to watch comedy, just pure
yeah.
I like to play, like, just like a kid. I like to remember what it's like to be 8 years old and just kinda wander around my backyard and be curious and go, "Oh my god, let's make some mud pies." Like, give yourself and which is very coined, like, practical magic from the movie where we
Mhm.
get to eat, cupcakes in the morning and we get to have midnight margaritas. It is that ability to be able to be outside of the square thought, outside of the think inside the box, and the way that it's easiest to get there is just to remember how to play. And I also wanna say is sometimes a lot of your listeners may say, "I don't remember how to play. I was parentified. I don't know." Well, honey, this is a great time to learn. Figure out if you want to get a coloring book, if you wanna watch comedy with me,
Mhm.
if you want to whatever it is, find your method of playing and do that before you go to sleep at night so that your emotional body can then rest and digest from a joyful point of view, which then helps kick out all of the other stuff.
Such a good suggestion. Yeah, thank you. It's so important, I think, too, for, our listeners for the Modern Witches podcast. There's lots of spiritual intuitives listening. And I just got the hit of like, yeah, our spiritual bodies need rest too, right?
Yes. 100.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, play is such a good suggestion. Yes. Yeah. And I guess on this kind of same line of thinking, where do you kind of see or feel into, if you do, like where the collective has work to do? What bodies does the collective need to be kind of engaging with?
That question, I guess, just kinda hearing that question, the first thing that comes to my mind is really very basic, and it's this the collective needs to give itself permission to be to pay attention to the emotional body, to pay attention to the spiritual body, to pay attention and care for the physical body, self-love, self-respect, self-care. Because I think that there has been thousands of years of dogma and theology to include not just theology under the main religions of the world, but to include a lot of different cults that are popping up. And I love people's belief systems until it tells them that they are wrong as a being,
Mm-hmm.
shames them, and tells them to disconnect from
Right.
the emotions. I was told that emotions and your mind are, the playground of the devil. You need to listen to it was very, very strict, and I think that collectively, there is still this thought of, "Do I need permission to be myself?" Is it okay to be sad? Or am I saying it wrong? And it's kind of like, "Oh, let's not repeat the same structure that we're all recovering from collectively, the dogma around the shame of individuality. Let's go ahead and encourage it." So with the collective, it really I'm seeing a movement of coming together. I'm
Mhm.
seeing a movement of, it used to be like healthy competition. I wrote a book. I sold more. You wrote 2. I'm jealous. All of that kind of stuff. And that's fun. That's kind of playful or whatever. But now it's kind of like, oh, and I love you for who you are. And this is who I am. Oh, and I love for you for who you are. And so it's more of a we're starting to come together in
Mhm.
individually or with covens or online, and I think it's just so beautiful. I really kinda see this is me. I see that it's almost like that movie, The Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come, and now it is time. We are all kind of individually with our own spiritual practice showing up on this playing field, and now all of a sudden, it's kinda like, "Let's play ball and let's play ball together." And it's
Mhm.
okay if you catch my ball or you pitch me a side ball, or it's a rejoice when we knock it out of the park, and it is a diamond, and there are different perspectives, but it is about community, and I really feel that that is what the collective is moving towards, and the more we give ourselves permission to be who we are, the better we can play on this playing field, right?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like how your framework really kind of beautifully sets up that work of integration, right? It's like there are these different bodies and they have their own like areas of experience and mastery and they inform one another. Yeah, and it strikes me just like a very beautiful framework that one could sort of really see kind of integrating into an already existing spiritual structure, in my
One
opinion. Yeah.
100%, 100%. So, I really wanna kind of talk about how that happens and
Yeah.
what it kinda looks like. So, have you ever heard of a Stradivarius violin?
Mm.
If you haven't, they are known to be one of the most expensive instruments in the whole world, and they come from specific, wood, and it was carved by a specific family. It is what I call authentic. But what
Mm.
if this violin was divided into 4 parts? The strings were over here, and the body was over here, and the bow was over here, and those prongs were somewhere else. What kind of music would it play? Well, it wouldn't play the lovely music that it was meant to play. And so it is with the 4 bodies of existence, so that when your physical and mental and emotional and spiritual bodies can come together, they don't always agree with each other, but when they come together, then it is the assembled, authentic vibration of the instrument, as the example of the Stradivarius, of you bringing your authenticity into the world. Nobody else is built like you. Nobody else thinks like you. You are a Stradivarius. And then inevitably, people are like, but I wanted to be a baby grand. You can be a baby grand. Yeah, no, too. But that's what it's about. It's not that one is louder. It's that if you have them separate, the world is missing out on your beautiful music.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to kind of reflect on your own kind of makeup, right? Of like, "Oh, this part of me is so strong, this part of me is a little weaker," like and thinking about the ways you can really honor all the parts of yourself. I think that's a really beautiful invitation. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. So I'm curious too, there's another layer to this 4 bodies with the kind of the ex external influences? External kind of I forget what you call them specifically, but there's the sort of external influences that you talked about briefly and the internal narrative that we all have. And I'd be curious just from your perspective as well, because it seems like you really went through this process. How do you sort of reclaim the authority of the internal
Yeah,
narrative
yeah.
when the external can be quite loud, right?
Oh, it's deafening. The external can be deafening. I mean, have
Mhm.
you ever been in a situation where you're just like, "I can't even hear my own thoughts?"
Yes.
That's what a lot of people go through. You know, how to so the external, how to move into and liberate and self-reclaim your internal voice can be done as playfully as show and tell in school, or Fridays you get to wear whatever clothes you want to wear day. So for me, it also started around, 20 years ago when I was conditioned by external voices to be a certain way. And then I walk into the witch shop, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second. I feel a little like, what's my favorite color? I feel a little bit like, why do I have to wear my hair that way? I feel a little bit like, why do I have to dress the same as everybody else? And how come I always have to eat what they're telling me to eat? It started out very, very subtle to the degree of, like, I'm I'm gonna braid my hair and go to work in a corporate office. That's what? You know? I'm going to wear indigenous made jewelry. What? It's such a huge, subtle stance, but
Mhm.
it encouraged my emotional body that it was safe enough to be out there and I could be playful. It encouraged parts of me that when I was little, I was told, "No, that's not right." So I really kind of played my way through it. And now look at me. I'm in mid-50s, I've got pigtails, my hat, all of it, and it really in a weird way, sometimes it starts with a thought, and then it continues with an external expression that is just something that your little inner child wants to get away with. "I'm gonna
Mhm.
wear shorts," or "I'm gonna wear jammy pants to the store." Those kind of liberations are actually the first step to a lot of for me, to a lot of what it is that I'm doing. That's just organic. I'm sure that there's a lot of
Mm.
ways, but that's what I did. I started braiding my hair.
I love it. Yeah. It's so important too. I think these shifts can feel really big and overwhelming, but it's kind of like these small intentional steps that we're taking.
100%, and then what happens is you start then wanting to do the next step, and so you check in with your emotional body, or you check in with your physical body, and your physical body's like, "I hate wearing these tight shoes. Why can't I
Mhm.
wear something else?" And then the next thing you know it, you're sporting some tennis shoes in a place that they're like, "Wait, you're not supposed to wear tennis shoes here," but it's not in the handbook. So it's kind of pushing the edges a little bit, and you start checking in with yourself more. And the more
Mhm.
that you do that, the more that your bodies are like, "Oh, you mean I have a voice? It's now
Mhm.
time for me to be free." It is, and so that's when you really start hearing that external narrative, and so then part 2 of the book is identifying the external narrative that was programmed in order for you to healthily take a look at it, examine it, figure out if it aligns with your internal narrative, and shift it or change it or adjust it so that you live your best life on purpose. That's
Mhm.
kind of it in a nutshell. And yeah, it is really big, very basic, and I'm just happy that it's out there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I guess on the larger scale question, like, how does it feel to be practicing magic or practicing your own spirituality in this landscape in the modern world with so much changing and so much kind of noise from like the mechanistic paradigm that we're in? Yeah, how does it feel for you to be practicing in this way?
It's scary, but I was made for it. Meaning that, the part of me says, "Did I? Did I choose to come to this earth at this time, in this body, in this way, and why would I do that?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not because it's not hard. It is because we are at a precipice of being able to internally expand like Jupiter. It is a time of mental expansion. It is a time of exploration. It's a time of out with the old and in with the new. It is a
Mhm,
time between for the tarot readers out there, it is the blank between the Tower card and the Star card and Aquarius energy rising and so we're at this moment. And so some days when my nervous system needs a little bit more love, I won't go outside. I cannot people today. But then
mhm,
there are those moments when I'm all my bodies are fed and it's time for me to say something and then I'm just like, "Let's play ball."
mhm,
And knowing that the more that you shine your light, yeah, the more people are gonna be like, "Don't do that." And what I hear when people tell me, "Don't shine your light," I'm like, "Oh, why? Because you're not giving yourself permission to shine your own light? Is that
right,
what that is?" And so it is a time of having to stay intact, balanced, self-knowledge, self-understanding, being out there, and being aware. So, yeah, it's scary, but I'm
mhm,
here for it. I am
yeah,
Granddaughter Crow, and crows sit at the edge of the battlefield, watching. It's not I'm taboo. I'm like, "Hey, I'll do shadow work with you, no problem,"
mhm,
only because I have done it for myself and, written a book on it as well. There's another book that I
mhm,
have that's out there on shadow work, and it's because it's all about self liberation. And in a very
mhm,
interesting way, I find it cool that I was raised under such strict dogma, and I knew what that felt in my physical body, my emotional body, and my mental body, and now that I am liberated, self-reclamation, or continuously doing that, I know that it feels different, and the difference is I get to be who I am because that's who Creator created me to be. And
mhm,
that's all there is to it. And in such, so do you. And we are all authentic. And that's what is the same about us, is that we all are authentic. So there is a dichotomy everywhere. So,
mm,
yeah,
I love
this is
that.
what happens, Casey, when you give me a microphone.
I love it. This is great. Honestly, it's so important for people to have examples of exactly what you just shared. Just like coming out of a place of like not having agency or knowing themselves to a place of true authenticity. And I love this piece of self-reclamation that feels like a powerful way to frame all of this work. And yeah, I think there's really something to what you've been saying about how the more individually we can come into balance with ourselves, the easier it will be to be on that baseball field, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I think we're
Uh,
going to kick off at 9 p.m. tonight, guys. Go over to the spiritual
yeah,
baseball
yeah,
field. I'll be there.
I'm
Batter
in.
up. I love it.
That sounds great.
Mhm.
That's so sweet. Is there anything that you're feeling hopeful about at this stage of our evolution or your evolution personally?
Yeah. Ooh, what am I feeling hopeful about? I am actually feeling very, very hopeful about the rise of authenticity, and I'm starting to see it. I'm feeling very hopeful, you know, about the younger generations
Mm,
because in a very interesting way, like, you know, as being a Gen X, I'm looking at the younger generations and, I'm just like, "Oh, you guys ask questions. You guys automatically understand agency more. You guys are a little bit more forgiving when it comes to individuality. You're more, and the way that so honestly, the next generation and the curiousness that they have, and, I think that that's part of my hope is for
Mm,
seeing what spiritual Gen Z does with all of this and how cool that will be to watch. Mhm.
honestly, I'm very excited as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's so much room. There's so much room, I think. Like, as we witness all these structures and systems that kind of don't work anymore or have kind of like outlived their usefulness, there's so much space to create something new. And I hope people are interested in participating in that.
100, me too. It's,
Mhm.
again, back to curiosity and authenticity.
Mhm.
That's my jam. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And so you have a book on shadow work out as well? That
Mhm.
sounds really lovely. I'm sure our audience will wanna check that out too. So we will put that in the show notes. Are you offering anything coming up that you wanna share with our listeners?
Absolutely. Now that you mentioned it, Casey, I'll take that
Yeah,
ball and I'll hit it out of the
please
park.
do it.
So, actually, Hoshon is my 5th book. The
Mm,
next book that is coming out is Shamanism for Beginners by Llewellyn, dropping in January, I believe, 2027. And so I've written a lot of different books, and I took the top 4 on shamanism or shamanistic concepts to include Hoshan and to include Shamanism in Your Shadow. The other one would be the one I just mentioned, as well as I have a book, Wisdom of the Natural World. And I'm taking these and like, hey guys, if you want to know shamanism with Granddaughter Crow, I'm doing Talk to the Author 6 weeks of, Zoom calls in a Zoom, we call it the Zoom Lodge, and we are a community tribe, and we walk through the book over a course of 6 weeks, and they're only like 198 for the whole 6 weeks, but you gotta buy the book and walk through it. And so there's a lot going on with that. That's
amazing.
one of the biggest things. I think a voice told me, "Write," and it could have been one of my 4 bodies, and now that same voice is like, "Okay, now it's time to teach again." So that's what I'm
Mhm.
doing. So www.granddaughtercrow.com. Check out all the fun things that's going on if this is your jam and if you're curious, right? If you're curious, yeah, we've got that going on.
Amazing. Lovely. Well, I'm
Thank
sure people will be curious.
thank you.
Um, such a great conversation. Thank you for opening up your world to us and sharing your wisdom with us. And yeah, keep encouraging people to do the work they're meant to be doing. It's so important.
I have one last thing I would love to say to your audience.
Please.
You are not broken. You are not disassembled. You're just finding yourself. Be empowered with everything that you're doing because a part of the dogma that we hold that informed our being was that somehow we're broken, and you're not broken. We are a bunch of misfit, freaking lovely toys out there on this misfit diamond of baseball showing up and being authentic. So come and play in whatever way with me or on this show. I love your podcast. And yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Granddaughter Crow. That was lovely. And I think it's something that needs to be said more and more.
More
Yeah.
and more.
Thank you for our listeners. Please go check out our offerings in the show notes to learn more. Thank you for tuning in to the Modern Witches podcast. We hope you've been inspired to cultivate your own magic and to craft your own spiritual practices. Let us know what sparked your curiosity by leaving us a comment on this episode or leave us a review. And don't forget to subscribe to the show so that you never miss an episode. Your feedback and engagement truly fills our cups. If you're looking for more ways to gather with your fellow witches, please support our work on Patreon. Learn more at modernwitches.org. Blessed be.